My name is Jeff Sullivan, and I'm with IBM Systems and Technology Group Lab Services and Training. You saw in the first video, we talked a little bit about and introduced the topic of DB2 Data Sharing and what comprises it. It was probably a 30,000-foot level description in terms of talking about what data sharing is all about. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now and talk a little bit about sysplexing and parallel sysplexing. First of all, a little bit of history here. Sysplexing has been around for a while, and what it gave us is the ability to be able to cluster ZOS systems together. When we went and brought in the aspect of parallel sysplexing, we're kind of going one step further, and we're now saying that we want to be able to share the data workload aspect, and that is that we want the workload to be able to work on multiple platforms. So if I've got, let's say, 2 or 3 LPARs with DB2 on all of them, I want a common area, again, as we said by definition, that the ability to write and read data from one place is the goal of DB2 data sharing. So we're now bringing in that data workload aspect. So let's put together a straw man of a DB2 data sharing environment. So I'm going to have 2 different LPARs. And let's call this, we'll call this LPAR A. We're going to call this one LPAR B. And let's suppose it's, we're going to keep this rather simple. We're just going to set up 2 DB2 members, data sharing members, within each of these LPARs. We're going to call this member A. And this is going to be member B. Now, I talked in the first video a little bit in terms of what structures need to be in place in order for this to work and in order to get this communication aspect going. We'll go into a little bit more detail now in terms of what the objects are that are underlying this. One of the things when you have a data sharing environment is we have one DB2 catalog. So I'm going to draw this as the catalog. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the data as well. So here's our DB2 catalog. And then here is the corresponding data. And you understand what I mean by that. This is the underlying structures, which would be the index spaces and the table spaces. So I'm going to have those data, the data aspect over here on this side. This is going to only be defined one time. You only have to have this one time in the data sharing environment. Logging is a different story. Logging is going to be at the member level. So there is going to be a log here for this member A. So I'm going to just call that log A. Don't get this confused with a log A, log B in terms of the same member. I'm just using this very simple in this diagram in terms of showing how this log goes together. This one here is going to be log B. It's communicating with this. Now, I talked earlier in the previous video about the sysplex timer. So we do have a timer that's taking place on all of this. I'll just draw this as a little clock. P-L-E-X. Be nice if I knew how to spell. Timer. And this is going to keep this all in synchronization along with what's in the coupling facility. Now, the coupling facility, usually drawn as a triangle, yellow triangle, has, and I mentioned in the first video, it has 3 primary structures in it. It has a locking structure which keeps track of which one of these members has a particular page that's being locked for, let's say, update, and it keeps track of that. Second thing it does is it also has a buffer pool in it, and these are called group buffer pools. And the third is it has a shared communication area, which is how these members all communicate. So 3 structures here. So the shared communication area, it's going to have a locking structure, and then it's going to have the group buffer pools. Now, we mentioned the fact that the reason why we do a data sharing environment is, again, 4 reasons. You can pretty much quote these things: continuous availability, extending the processor capability, configuration flexibility, and increasing the transaction rate. So that's a given. That's kind of one of the reasons why we do this. Now, what is this not? This is not a disaster recovery scenario. So If you think that a data sharing environment is for disaster recovery, rethink that thought, because that's really not what a data sharing environment does. This is mainly because typically this is going to be in one place. So if somebody was to, let's say, take this out for some reason, you won't be able to recover this. That's not really what the goal is here. The goal is to be able to get more transactions and things through the system, and then the 4 items I've already mentioned to you. So that's what really we're talking about in terms of a data sharing environment, and how this all communicates. These are all very easy to set up. This is extremely simple. Get with your friendly system programmer, your ZOS system programmer, to set all this up. In terms of setting these things up, really the hardest thing to all of this is getting a good common name standard.